This episode of Profiles in Risk is sponsored by IA-Path. IA-Path, unlocking your adjusting superpowers. Go to iapath.com.
This is Profiles in Risk. Hosted by Nick Lamparelli. Every week, we interview those who risk life, limb, fortunes, career, and reputation, and those who work behind the scenes who look to protect and enlighten us about risk. You can find the show notes and other insurance-related content at insnerds.com. That's insnerds.com. Now, on to the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Profiles in Risk. Or should I say, ciao tutti. I'm your host, Nick Lamparelli. I'm very pleased to introduce Matteo Carbone. Matteo is the founder and director of the IoT Insurance Observatory, which generates and promotes innovation in the insurance sector. He is also the co-founder of Archimedes SPAC, a special purpose acquisition company seeking to become a licensed insurtech carrier in the Italian market. And prior to these, Matteo was at Bain and is often ranked as the most influencing person in insurtech. Matteo, buongiorno.
Buongiorno. Thanks for inviting me today.
I was very tempted to do my entire opening in Italian, but you have a very vast background and description, and I could not. My Italian was too rusty to translate all of that. So welcome to Profiles in Risk. It's been a long time coming.
Really a pleasure to discuss insurance innovation with you and your audience.
Yes, thank you so much. Your background, as I mentioned, your background is very wide, vast, deep. How did you come into insurance? How did you get into this line of business?
It has been something not planned. When I have finished my university, I have worked for the first year in the consulting company of one of my professors at university. This company was a small boutique strategic consulting company working on many sectors. One of the projects I did was on insurance. Was really an exciting project. Was a moment where I discovered this sector and I developed some skills thanks to the clients that was really forward-looking, a bank insurance company, and this topic will come back in the story of my career within the insurance sector. After a few months, I have been contacted by Bain and Company to join their team in Milan, and they was looking for a profile that have a young analyst, but with some knowledge on insurance. It's not so easy to find. And I spent the previous 6 months working on the insurance sector. So I had the opportunity to join Bain thanks to that experience I've done in the sector. And my first project in Bain has been 1 year with the team of Mario Greco, advising the team, supporting the team in the setup of the direct distribution channel of Eurizon. That was 2006. So in other 12 months, I have really developed a deep knowledge working closer to a fantastic team. This knowledge, this feeling that the insurance sector is complex, but there are many opportunities to do stuff in a new way. So from there, my focus has been 100% the insurance sector, and I've seen everything within that sector in many different markets. I've worked in 20 different markets.
Yeah, and so you're juggling two pretty large projects right now that are bigger than projects. They're actually you're gaining traction on both. I want to talk about the first one, and then we'll go into the second one a little bit later. The IoT Observatory. Can you describe that in your words?
Yes, the IoT Insurance Observatory is a think tank. So it's a multi-client research developed by my team, but the way I'm delivering the content of the research is through workshops dedicated one-to-one to each of the members of the think tank. So currently there are more than 45 organizations that have joined the observatory between Europe and North America. Currently in North America, I have 5 of the top 15 property and casualty insurance group. I have a tech player like Microsoft. I have a few startups. So I'm engaging them in a discussion. I'm going to their headquarters, presenting the content of the research and discussing this content with their executive. Let's consider that in 2017, I did 130 workshops between Europe and US, meaning 350 hours of discussion on the adoption of IoT within the insurance sector. In the last 3 years, I've worked with players that on the vertical of telematics, that is the more mature use case for IoT, represent more than 70% of the global telematics market. So what I'm delivering them is my point of view, a constant scouting of the best practices and the pitfalls around the world. I'm repeating the workshops, the round of meetings dedicated to each of the members 3 times in a year. At the end of each round of workshop, I'm organizing one plenary symposium, meaning a day of conference only for the members of the observatory, where I'm presenting my wrap-up of what I understood, discussing with all of them. Some of them come to present their last innovation. We have done the last plenary session last Wednesday in Cincinnati at the American Modern headquarters, and American Modern presented their experience with connected home. They are experimenting since a few years sensors in a couple of houses they are using to train loss adjusters, and now they went to the market with a pilot testing this concept and this solution with clients. So they joined the plenary session, presenting to the other members their experience innovating. At that plenary sessions, I'm inviting also tech players that come to discuss their point of view on insurance innovation with the member of the observatory. So in a nutshell, this is what the observatory is doing.
I mean, you're doing the observatory, so IoT is something that's very important to you and something that you think is going to be very important to the sector. For US carriers that have issues, problems with their legacy IT issues, I'm concerned about how they implement any kind of strategy with IoT. And I almost feel like their default reaction will be to wait for everyone else to incorporate IoT, kind of prove the concept a little bit. What kind of advice would you give to any carrier that's waiting for IoT to kind of prove itself before jumping in and implementing it into their business model?
Good question. Not simple to answer in a few minutes because each carrier is different. What I'm bringing with the observatory is a point of view where, as based on all the best practices I've seen around the world and all the pitfalls that are many that I've seen around the world, I have 3 main beliefs. First, it's not a matter of changing or implementing something on the legacy system. So I've seen many projects and succeed without any impact for the first 2-3 years on the legacy. So my first message is you can achieve some relevant quick win on your portfolio without impacting your legacy. You can use external providers, can be startups or established vendors to achieve these quick wins. Second, there are already demonstrated use cases in different business lines. So some players, especially in Europe, have been able to create a massive quantity of value on their insurance value chain using telematics data to manage better auto insurance claims. There are a few players that in the past couple of years have been able to change behavior with products really built, with all the value proposition built in order to change behavior. That is not showing the number of stars you have achieved in the last trip. So you need really to build a product that is focused to address the change of behaviors. The third point is the main challenge is to be agnostic, to define a strategy that fits with your company, not to put in place a copy and paste approach from what you have already seen on the market. I think that these are the 3 main advices I can share with a carrier that would like to start experimenting something on IoT insurance.
Can you discuss Archimedes SPAC? And I think that's fairly new information. And it's probably, I'm assuming, you eating your own dinner, you taking your own advice.
So this is my new baby. I've worked with the CEO of this new company in the past 6 months to shape the strategy of this initiative, this ambitious initiative that would like to create the first insurtech carrier on the Italian market. So we have set up a special purpose acquisition company that this week have closed the funding. We have raised $56 million. We will be listed since next Monday. This company will acquire, after the sign-off of the regulator, an existing small bank insurance carrier, so an insurance company that currently is focused on a niche product distributed to banks. The strategy of the company after the acquisition and the reverse merge with the SPAC will be the enlargement of their offer. Second, the improvement of each step of the insurance value chain of this company, leveraging the best insurtech solution. This approach is consistent with my view on insurtech, with the thesis of my book, All the Insurance Players Will Be Insurtech, meaning that insurtech can improve dramatically the way an insurance company is assessing, managing, and transferring risk. This is something that will require step-by-step an evolution of the company. So you will have a mix of solutions that will impact the backend, solutions that will impact the interaction with customers, solutions like IoT that will reinvent the product structure. So the ambition of the company is to provide innovative solutions, innovative products to middle-sized banks in the Italian market, to bring some of the products we will develop for that bank to middle-sized brokers in the Italian market. So the goal is to cover both personal line and micro and small commercial. Third, to become the preferred bank insurance player for all the fintechs that are appearing on the Italian market. They focus only on banking products, on transactional products. We would like to provide them insurance solution that fit with their business model. I will be not operative daily on this company. I have designed together with the CEO of the company, that is the ex-CEO of Aviva in the Italian market, designed with him the innovation strategy. I will be in the board and I will chair an advisory board on innovation, because the ambition of the player is to stay on the frontier of innovation.
Does Archimedes SPAC have ambitions to, if successful, expand throughout the rest of Europe and potentially globally? And we'll get right back to this podcast right after a short message from our sponsor. I'm back with Chris Stanley, founder of IAPath. Chris, when someone is interested in becoming an independent adjuster or independent appraiser, what can IAPath offer them?
Nick, at IAPath, we recognize that getting people to take a chance on a new vendor or independent adjuster is challenging. So one thing that we do to help IAs is train them, certify them, and mentor them. We want to give them the skills to actually do the job and in turn give the hiring companies confidence to try out our graduates. We call these interactive online courses and mentorships boot camps. We also offer self-paced training videos and IA networking and support through our monthly membership that we call the League of IAs.
Learn to write auto, heavy truck, and other claim types with IAPath's online trainings. Unlock your adjusting superpowers. Go to iapath.com. Does Archimedes SPAC have ambitions to, if successful, expand throughout the rest of Europe and potentially globally?
Honestly, no. I don't believe is so easy to replicate insurance models in different markets. If we take a look to the story of the sector in the past 20 years, in the last 10 years, I have advised many of the international players. You can see only a few stories in replicating in different markets the same approach. So I'm a strong believer that the insurance to play in the insurance sector, you need a deep knowledge on the specificity of the market. So you can work in more than one market, but you are doing a second initiative. You need to consider all the specific laws that are impacting the insurance needs. So I'm not talking only about the regulation. I'm talking really about why a customer is purchasing an insurance coverage. And in many cases, this is linked with the business habits of the country, is linked with the request of the laws in this country, is linked to the social security system of the country. All the European countries are different one each other. You have really few examples of players that have been successful in one market, have replicated from the scratch the success in other markets. Typically, they have acquired another carrier. I think that many of the startups that as an MGA or as a full stack insurer are currently claiming to go international, I don't believe them. I believe that this is PR press release, but do it really is a different story. I would like to share with you one example of a best practice that have been able to replicate their unique model in different markets is Discovery. So the South African insurer that with the Vitality approach have the last 25 years reinvented health and life insurance, the health and life insurance approach. They are an insurance carrier in South Africa. They have acquired a company in UK. So currently they own a company, but they started a joint venture with Prudential. Then they purchased one existing carrier. So that demonstrates that they have not entered alone in the UK market, but they partnered with a player that have a deep knowledge on this market. And then they acquired an existing carrier. In all the other markets after, currently they are in more than 10 different markets around the globe. They are acting as a service provider. So they are providing their approach, their knowledge on the actuarial part, the marketing part, the ability to manage partners to existing carriers that are strong in the local market. So from my point of view, this is the way to grow internationally an approach that works. Because you need someone that is able to execute in the local market. This is one of the reasons because I don't see tech giants, Google, Facebook, Amazon, to succeed in the insurance market because they would like to apply, their nature is to apply the same approach in all the markets. So maybe in some niche they can do something if they want, but to play with the serious insurance market, so auto, home, health, many of the commercial lines, you need to tailor the solution on the single market characteristics.
The Italian market seems to be ahead of the game when it comes to things like telematics and IoT. What's so special or specific about the Italian market that's kind of created this, arena where they seem to be more progressive when it comes to this kind of technology?
I think that is not the context. It has been generated by the movement of one large insurance carrier. So the larger auto insurance carrier in the Italian market is the pioneer in experimenting auto telematics. So in 4 or 5 years, they have been able to find a model that works for them. So they start to put more effort in the execution of this project and they start to scale up this solution. So they start to compete with a tool their competitors didn't have at that time. So I'm talking about 10 years ago. Let's consider that the Italian approach on telematics is focused on claims, on reinventing the claims management, leveraging telematics data. But this requires to change your processes. But all the storytelling of the product, that is concentrated, that is focused on claims management, has demonstrated a tremendous effect in selecting risk. So remember at the beginning when I was talking to you about quick win. When you put in the market a product that is delivering to the customer a storytelling that makes he feel that his insurer will be with him if there is a crash. And his insurer will know everything about this crash. This way, the insurer can help him send assistance, pay faster the claim, defend the customer against third parties that are claiming that the customer had done something wrong. But if you are something to hide to the insurer, someone that feels that, my way to drive probably is not so good, I'm always speeding and so on, you don't accept to install a device in your car. So this approach in the Italian market currently represents more than 20% of the auto insurance business. And this portfolio shows risk-adjusted 20% less claim frequency than the non-telematics portfolio. So comparing like for like the two portfolios, the telematics one has 20% less claims. When you have one player that discovers this and starts to be aggressive promoting the product with sharing part of this value created with the customer through discount, you are obliging the competitors to follow you. So from 2011, 2012, other insurers start to follow this approach, start to push commercially the product, and now there are more than 7 players that shows a penetration higher than 20%. So my view is that if this carrier, the market leader, 15 years ago, didn't focus their effort in experimenting telematics, and they didn't succeed in finding this way to manage telematics, currently the penetration of the Italian market was negligible, as many of the other European markets. So everything is due to this player.
That's very interesting take on it. You have a reputation. You're often ranked as one of the top influencers when it comes to insurtech. I've had conversations with several people who have quite honestly asked me, how does he do it? How do you get so much influence? How do you get so many people to follow you? And I want to segue over to that part of your career and ask you, what's your strategy for you to become known, for you to become an influencer? What's your social media strategy to get to that level? A lot of the listeners would be very curious to understand how you've curated all of this information and how you've presented it to establish yourself as a very important thought leader when it comes to this space.
So it was not planned. There was not an entry strategy. I was posting, as many people do, on LinkedIn daily, my view. I was sharing at the beginning articles wrote by others. Then I started to receive feedback from clients when I was a consultant in Bain that was telling me, we are always following your LinkedIn profile because it's the way to read the most relevant news. We don't need to scout about the news. It's enough to follow your profile, and you are sharing some of the most interesting topics that are coming out. So when you start to have that kind of feedback, you start to dedicate more attention and never skip your daily post. Then I start to share my past. I start to not only sharing a news, but I start to establish my voice. So my unique point of view, my belief about insurance innovation. I think that my way to do it is probably bold, loud, and consistent. Meaning that I am not following the clickbaiting trend. I love discuss deep content. So this is the reason, because on social media I'm spending probably 80% of my time on LinkedIn, because it's the platform where you can go deeper in the content. You can really engage in discussion. So I'm shaping my view on insurance innovation, discussing with knowledgeable people on LinkedIn. Since beginning of 2015, I have started to post articles on LinkedIn where I was sharing my view on the sector. I was crunching number available on the market, providing something that no one normally do. This has been the way I established my voice in the insurance sector. Then I started to be at conferences. I wrote a few white papers, for example, one last year with the Swiss Re. I wrote a book. Then things are coming. Obviously, now I have my strategy in promoting my content on social media. So I'm using Twitter to mirror my LinkedIn activity. I'm doing live video in my speech at conferences. So with try and error, I'm trying to improve the way I'm spreading my content. But really, the beginning has been really based on passion, content, and consistency of the messages.
I especially like that you mentioned finding your voice and being consistent with it. I think that's a very important message for people that are listening, because I think I've had a little bit of success also trying to replicate what you just described, which is knowing what I know and then being confident and being consistent in what I know. I'm curious, if a young relative approached you and asked you about a career in insurance, how would you advise that person?
I think that based on the experience I've done, it's key to build solid foundation. With Bain & Company for years, working with advising established incumbents and really knowledgeable people within that incumbents that teach me many of the foundation of the insurance business currently have been not able to do what I'm doing. So I would like to enter in this market and build a career in this market need solid foundation. You are active on social media, you are present at conferences as me, is full of cheerleaders of innovation. People that are not able to distinguish a loss ratio from a combined ratio. So I think that if you have strong foundation, if you know the basic of this business, then you can build something that will be unique because it's uncommon.
Yes. Matteo, when you're flying all over the world, you're now running essentially two businesses with a lot of other side projects that you're doing. Personally, though, when you aren't engaged in insurtech or running companies, what do you enjoy doing?
So are you meaning in the 2-3 minutes daily?
Yes. If you have a spare 5 minutes and you're not working, or if you could get a vacation or a holiday, what would you do outside of insurtech?
So to be honest, I never stopped. So I'm on the road for 12 months, 30 days each month, from March 5 to April 25 in 50 days in 32 cities. So, but in parallel, so I'm trying to enjoy my time out of the cities where I'm going. I'm passionate on fitness. So each day, 1 hour, I'm in gym. Maybe in this hour, I'm also answering to few mails and so on. So I'm really not off also in that moment, but I think I to be consistent also on the physical activity.
I was hoping you were saying you like to race your Ferrari along the Italian Riviera.
No, my business are not generating so high margins.
Yes. So, Matteo, you are busy, like incredibly busy. You just mentioned all of the cities that you're in. It took us a while to schedule this podcast. So personally, how do you stay organized? How do you remain productive when you have to be in so many different places and you're traveling many hours of the week? How do you stay productive and organized?
What I'm doing is basically to plan everything in advance for my schedule in the next month where I need to be. And trying to find the best connection. I have a fantastic assistant that is booking the flights for me, finding the right spot to optimize my logistics. So I live in front of an Outlook. So everything happening in my day from, if something is not on Outlook, doesn't happen. So a call from dedicating time to post something really is something that I need it, because you have many distractions, new things that are happening, so you need to manage the emergency. On the other side, you really need to be disciplined and allocate a slot to do things. So Outlook, second, Excel. And all my business, I have my funnel of things to do, and Note. The daily to-do list is on Note. You are adding things, priority on the top, and then you cancel things and you add new things. Unfortunately, I have some things in my to-do list that is there since 6 months. So it's low priority, stay there, bottom on the list.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. For the listeners, we always ask all the guests, what books have been influential in either your personal or business lives?
To be honest, the last 5 years I have not a lot of time to read books. If I had to define one thing that have influenced my life and my career, this is LinkedIn. A lot discussing there, as I was mentioning you before. I have shared my view on this platform, discussing with people that have a terrific knowledge on the specific topic. You are able to find who has dedicated all his career on one single topic. And on the other side, allowed me to have an international exposure. From the known well in one single market, this platform has opened me the worldwide market in the insurance. So my view is that probably I have been not able to do what I'm doing if doesn't exist LinkedIn. So large part of what I built is based on my presence in this platform for the past 5 years. Many of the businesses that I've created are based on people, on the relation with people I've known, I've discussed with on LinkedIn.
That's perfect. That's how I started my business too. I was very fortunate to serendipitously bump into someone on LinkedIn, and we ended up forming a business relationship. I almost feel like LinkedIn, if you focus hard enough, it could become a business education. If you get involved in the in-depth discussions that reside there. Matteo, this has been fantastic. I want to say I thoroughly enjoy the messages you do post on LinkedIn. I thoroughly enjoy the conversations you instigate that you post up there, even the conflicting ones where I can tell you're looking to kind of stir the pot up a little bit to generate the conversation. I think it's been incredibly valuable, both to insurtech, but just to insurance in general, to have your presence there, to have your ability to look through the clouds, look through the fog, to find the message, but also to get other people's opinions about what's going on in insurance. And I appreciate you spending time with me this morning to have this conversation.
It has been really a pleasure, and hope to catch you in 12 months and talking about execution of innovation in the insurance sector. So I'm really happy when I see some of the members of my think tank that go to the market with one solution.
Awesome. My guest this week has been Matteo Carbone. Matteo, thank you so much again.
It's been a pleasure.